for authors, filmmakers, entertainment, and all your listening needs. Listen now to Talk Now Radio, where no topic is taboo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio, listener-supported radio, where no topic is taboo. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Secret Magical Elixirs of Life. The author is Maria D'Andrea, and she's going to have a little bit more knowledge about this to share than I am on this particular show, as I usually deal a lot in ancient mysteries, ancient mythology, and ancient astronauts from the early church and that. But I do know a little something that you run across it studying what I usually study. So we're going to give a run on this here show. This is her first time, so I hope everybody gives her a nice warm welcome in your hearts, if not nowhere else or in the chat room there or something. Don't forget, if y'all want to call in, the call-in number is 832-632-7904. And if you want to learn more about Maria, you can go to www.mariadandrea.com. And also you can find her link by scrolling down below the chat room. You'll see her picture, her book cover, her link right underneath it, and her bio and her book description, and a link to where you can get the book at Amazon.com. So, Maria, how you doing tonight?
Wonderful. I'm so glad that I'm on your show. I just wanted to thank you for having me on.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you, but I like to done you wrong there. I started to call you Andrea. You got one of those names that, you know, the first and last could be flip-flopped, in other words.
Oh, that happens.
So, that's why I paused for a minute. I would say, wait, which one am I supposed to be going with here? But I'm going to work on that one. I kind of got tongue-tied.
No, it's great. Not a problem.
At any rate, I believe you just recently had a post up on Facebook that your book, The Secret Magical Elixirs of Life, was on Kindle for free until, has that already passed?
No, it just passed because it was up yesterday.
It was up yesterday.
We'll try to tell everybody, you know, because sometimes, you know, we try to do little promotional things so that it helps people, because I really feel the more information you get out there where people can do things for themselves, the more they can do things for themselves, the better they do and everybody else around them. You know, we always need to put back to the universe.
Okay. Now, this book is on Kindle and in paperback both, am I correct?
Yes, it's on Amazon. I have a wonderful publisher, Timothy Beckley, and he's phenomenal because he does all this, and, you know, I would be lost. You know, I'm not good at the electrical things. Electrical things tend to blow up on me when I'm working. It's just my energy. So I'm always laughing because I always look at it as, you know, I should have bought stock in the company that makes toasters because I touch them and they keep blowing up. I have to remember not to do that.
So then you're used to having your toast crispy.
Oh, pretty much. Very, very.
So do you have an electric stove?
Well, yeah, I have to remember I don't ground into things. It's really funny when I'm working psychically. If I ground, I'm fine. And then I forget sometimes, and the energy goes into anything electrical that I touch. So I spend a lot of time going, don't touch, don't touch. I have friends where if I'm visiting, they go, don't touch anything electronic. Because our energy shift. And I really think everybody's does, just on different levels.
Well, I think you're right about that, because I remember back in, 81, 82, I was working at Rimco TV, and they came out with a new TV, an RCA color track, which is on a swivel base, and this had a middle strip right down the front by the control panel, right close in to the on and off button and the channels and all of that. And that store was carpeted, and you used to be able to walk across there and build up a static charge and touch that metal strip, and the TV would come on.
Oh, I love it.
And I swear to God, I did that one time, but I built up too much static charge, and it fried the TV. But I mean, if you could do it with static, why not other kinds of energy?
Well, exactly. First of all, I do teaching, and obviously I do readings, but I teach and I lecture on the spiritual, psychic, and metaphysical fields, all over the place, all over different states. And I truly believe that everybody is psychic. It's just different levels. That's like some people are artists, but everybody can draw. Well, actually, except me. I can't draw anything. But I think it's just different levels. And some people are meant to work with it in their personal life or professionally, and some people aren't. Everybody's not on the same path. But I do believe that everybody has some ability.
Okay. I was just, somebody just showed up in the chat room, said their iPad was working, and I scrolled down, and I was saying hi to them, and it didn't take it first because the scroll bar was scrolled up somewhere, and I didn't know it. Okay. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat in case you have a question in there.
Oh, okay.
So, going back to where we were at with this here, though, this is not the only book you have out on the market, is it?
No, actually, if anybody looks on Amazon, Kindle, or like even Nook, I don't know. I lost track. I have something like 9 or 10 books out somewhere. They just have to put my name in, and all different things pop up. So I have a book on, it's called Heaven Sent Money Spells. And basically, that's exactly what it is. It tells you how to manifest abundance, finance, business, financial opportunities. Okay, and then we have one on, I lose track after a while. That's terrible. I have one on personal mega power spells. Basically, they're formulas. I find that if you look at, they keep calling them spells and formulas, but basically they've been with us forever because everything comes down from ancient times. It's all passed down. In fact, I have one that's called an occult grimoire. And basically, I really find that I teach the ancient methods and mine. Part of it could be just because I'm a shaman out of Europe rather than here. And I'm also connected to the Tuscarora tribe as a shaman, as an honorary shaman. So I find that we tend to use the very old methods, and ours. And I laugh sometimes because some of the methods, they're very simple, they're very direct, because when you think of ancient times, they really didn't have time to do 8 million rituals. If you have an animal chasing you in the jungle, you don't have time for the ritual or your snack. Right? So a lot of what I do, it's very simple and direct, and I laugh sometimes because people go, it only took me an hour in a class to learn that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I could teach it in an hour, but it's 15 years of goof-ups to get there.
So you just teach everything but the goof-up part.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to give everybody a shortcut. But because, they're more simple and direct, because I want everybody to be able to do it, rather than I make it very, very convoluted and it looks very impressive and then nobody can do it.
So this
I
is
try to make it easy for people so they can do it themselves.
I was going to say it's kind of a how-to handbook.
Yeah, pretty much. They're all books on formulas and how to do things for yourself, and it tells you different techniques. Like in the book that we were just talking about, in that one, it tells you a lot about gemstones, how to work with them, what they do, how to really use them. It tells you about psychometry as an example, which is when you hold an object and you can do a reading off it. I like teaching because I like when people can do their own thing. And it talks about pendulums and dowsing and psychic ability. Like I said, I really believe everybody's psychic. So I want them to be able to use their own tools. But with the gemstones, a lot of times people don't realize, if you look at working with gemstones, herbs, and oils, you don't have to believe in any of it. And I'm an interfaith minister, so I don't mean it negatively, but some things you don't have to believe in. They work on vibration. So if you add your belief, obviously it's positive, but you don't need to. It's vibrational. And I've worked with scientists in the past. They can actually test the objects, the gemstones or the oils or the herbs. So the way they work metaphysically, if you carry a gemstone, as an example, within 3 feet of your body, it will attract to you. It's kind of like a magnet. If it's farther than 3 feet from you, it still works, just not necessarily for you. So the vibration is very powerful. That's why they have medicine bags, and a lot of people carry gemstones, because it actually attracts. So through time, you're building a magnetic field.
So it's attracting energy.
Mm-hmm. And especially even financially, people forget if you're dealing with money or opportunities, as an example, to make money, but say you're dealing with money. What happens is money is just a different form of vibration. So there's a metaphysical law that says like attracts like. Okay. So if you're putting the energy out magnetically with a gemstone or herb or oil, but mainly with the gemstones, if you're putting out magnetically, carrying something that vibrates to money, it'll start attracting it in. It's actually funny how it works, because you can watch it work. Don't even have to believe in it. That's the easiest thing you can do. I like easy.
Yeah, so do I. I like easy and I like free. Those two are my favorite things.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm thinking while I'm listening to you here is that from what I know about quantum mechanics, everything around us is energy. So that leads me to ask, are we really dealing with magic, or are we dealing with a science that is understood as magic?
Actually, I think you're absolutely good with that one, because I feel that magic is the oldest science. Okay. If you look at chemistry came out of alchemy. Physics came out of metaphysics. So it's all connected. It's just a label. But we really are the oldest science in magic. Again, now they look at it as metaphysics. We don't really care what you call it. It's the same thing. There's a very big difference between psychic ability and metaphysics. I happen to do both, and there are people that also do both, but they're two separate fields.
Why don't you give us an idea of the difference between the two?
Okay. If you're working psychically, psychic information is very, very passive. Okay. You're actually doing nothing. You're getting yourself out of the way for information to come to you. So the way I always look at it is, if I'm doing a reading for somebody, I look at it as they're at one end of the phone. My source is at the other end of the phone. And it's like I'm just the wire. So the best thing I can say about myself, if I was the best person psychically on the planet, is I'm okay as a tool. Big deal. So if you had any ego, that would just take it out. Because really none of that is my information. I've worked with the military in the past. I have no idea what I said to them. I really don't know. Because it's not my information. Metaphysics is the opposite. Okay. Metaphysics is understanding the laws of nature to work with it. So as an example, you understand it enough to bring positive things into somebody's life or your life, and to get rid of negative, but in a positive way. We never heard anything. I really believe in karma. I truly believe whatever you put out comes back. So even if you read my books, there's absolutely nothing negative in them, because I really feel that nothing is stronger than the positive side. Okay. And sometimes we work both the metaphysical and the psychic fields. Okay. But they are technically two separate fields. One's controlling and you understanding nature to work with it. Okay. And the other one's passive. You're just getting yourself out of the way for information to come to you. I always laugh when people go, "Oh, I'm such a great psychic." I'm like, really? It's not your information.
Well, I'm kind of glad you cleared that up, because I was always under the impression that mediumship was, kind of like allowing spirits from the other side to use you as a medium to convey messages.
Well, that's just a different form. I find I really do every form of psychic reading, because I've been doing this forever. However, I personally don't like to do mediumship too often, because any form you use to tune in to get the correct information is great. It doesn't matter what form you use. People always think mediumship is a better way to tune into somebody that passed away, but we get that information either way. Okay? The difference is this. And this is just a personal preference. I find I had an experience years and years and years ago. My first experience with mediumship was that I was doing a reading for somebody, and I was doing readings and metaphysical work and ministry for days and days and days and days and days, you know. So I'm doing this reading for this lady, and all of a sudden I was in a gray space. It felt like a room, but no walls, no floor, but it just felt like a room. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to do later. I'm thinking about, I'm going to go out and, have dinner and what I'm going to be doing. And it felt like in the front of the room, I'm hearing a voice talking and talking and talking, and I'm not paying attention. I'm just hearing somebody speaking. And I remember at one point, the person way in the front of the room said something, and I remember thinking, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. And then I went, oh, whoops, it's me, and I came right out of it. So now I'm looking at the person I'm reading because I'm waiting for her to say something. I don't know if my head spun, if my voice changed. I have no clue. So I was waiting for her to say something, but apparently outwardly nothing changed because I was still in the middle of the sentence. But it was funny because I really expected her to go, oh, my God, what did you do wrong?
So have you actually had a spirit enter into you and use your body?
Well, it's more that, it's more like they kind of shove you out of the way a little bit, so that they can give the information more directly. But the funny part that people don't realize is it's the same information whether you're using mediumship or any other form. If you're getting yourself out of the way to get the information that they need, okay, the form doesn't matter, the information matters. And I don't know if it's just me because I know some people feel more comfortable with mediumship, but I don't do it that much because honestly, I don't like to give up 100% control. I'm just not comfortable with it. I'm sure you're not either.
Yeah, I'm sure most Leos aren't.
Right? We're just not that comfortable with it. I'm okay with giving up some so that, I can see what's going on, and to get the information. But I'm not good at I'm not there and I'm listening to somebody else talking. It was very upsetting, so, it's kind of like, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
So it's kind of like you stepped out and you were an observer listening to yourself.
Exactly.
Not
and the
knowing
funny
it was
part
yourself.
was in a long time, I didn't even know it was me. To this day, I have no idea what I said, what I did. I have no clue. But I did find out through experience that if you're working as a medium, for some reason, you cannot, when you're done, or towards the beginning of it, or at the end of it, you cannot drink anything really cold because it just like snaps you right back in. So that snaps you back into your body. It's kind of like an energy shock. So you'd come right out of the mediumship level.
I bet that would probably happen if you got stung by a bee at the wrong time, too.
Oh, exactly. Exactly, because your body is on survival instinct. That's like, when you meditate. People always think that when you meditate, they're worried that, they're going to meditate, and what if something happens, they won't know it. Your body's always in survival mode. So say you're meditating and you're totally unaware of your environment. If there's a fire in the room, your body goes into survival and wakes you up. People just don't think about that.
There are some people, there have been some people that have slept right through it and burned, alive, but I think that's probably pretty rare. Yeah.
And that's more sleeping, I think, like you said, rather than meditation.
Yeah, that probably is. Once you can go out and get almost in a coma when you're asleep. I mean, seriously.
See, now, I wish I could do that. I don't sleep that much. I think that's wonderful. Sometimes you need that little break for your body to go, no, I just need to recharge.
Okay. So, tell us about some of the things that the readers will find in this here book that we're talking about, the Magical Elixirs of Life.
Okay, Okay, well, one of the things that I find is that, like I said, if you're carrying a gemstone, only because gemstones are around everybody, so that makes it easier than getting a little bit more complicated with things. The first thing is if you get a gemstone, you need to cleanse the energy. The reason is this. Stones will hold on to focused energy around them. So as an example, say somebody that's mining the stone or in the warehouse just had a fight with their wife or their husband. They're not going to be happy handling the stone. Okay? So what we want to do is get all the energy out that might be negative, and that way all you're left with is the energy of the stone and its magnetic pull. So one of the easiest ways, and there's a lot of methods, one of the easiest ways to cleanse a stone is you take the stones, you put it into direct sunlight for 3 days. So that means it can be on your windowsill, your kitchen table, doesn't matter as long as it's getting the sunlight. Okay? And I find that that takes out any negative energy. Now, scientifically, because the vibration changes, they can actually test it and see that there's an energy shift, which I just love. I love when the scientific community matches us. And if they don't match us, that's fine too, because we all need to learn. Okay? But they actually have scientific proof on the energy shift. Okay? So, after that, if you carry the stone within 3 feet of your body, and I'm saying it like that because basically, depending on what you're doing, you can carry it, you can leave it in your room, okay? You can wear it, you know. So it depends on what situation you're comfortable with, okay? As an example, there's a purple stone called amethyst. You've heard of that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you take amethyst, and I was laughing. I was teaching a class once, and I was explaining to them with the stones how size doesn't matter, and this gentleman started coughing. And he was saying, he's like, well, what do you mean? Because he went out, first of all, he got this really gigantic stone because he thought that, you know, it would work better. But in most situations, it really doesn't. Okay?
Doesn't make any difference the size?
No, not really. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing something like making a power rod, which is kind of like a laser beam effect, then it makes a little bit of a difference. But in general, you know, it doesn't. But if you take a stone that's amethyst and you put it in whatever room you're having a party in, it keeps people from getting as intoxicated as they would have been, so they're a little safer driving.
Or at least till they get a block down the road.
Yeah, right.
Get out of range of the stone, and then all of a sudden the effects hit them.
I know, it's funny. I had this very wonderful gentleman, and he said, you know, he liked to party. He says he just carries the gemstone in his pocket just in case. So I was telling him, well, that's really good. However, that also means on the physical plane, you need to tone it down. We're always working with both realities, you know?
Which
so
both realities are consisting of energy at different rates.
Right. You know, and the stones vibrate differently, you know, the energy. So, as an example, if you carry a stone, it's a brown stone, it's called tiger eye. If you carry that, that brings in protection on the energy level, which means, as an example, say somebody on your job is really, really jealous all the time. If you carry tiger's eye, you'll still notice that they're jealous. We didn't change them. What it means, though, is that whatever energy they're sending you because they don't wish you well, okay, it won't affect you. The difference is the effect. Okay? That's like if you carry, if you carry pyrite. You know, pyrite is also called fool's gold. It's a gold-looking stone. If you carry pyrite, it actually attracts finance. Yeah, and in that case, you would put it wherever you want money to come in to. Like if you own a store, you would put it in your cash register. Okay, if you're working on the phone, you might want to put it near your phone. I just carry it and put it in my pocket because I just want it coming in.
Okay, so tell me about lapis lazuli. Does that have any kind of effect or use in magical?
Oh, definitely. That's one of the strongest psychic stones. Okay? What that means is it heightens whatever your ability is psychically. And like I said, I do feel everybody's psychic intuitive. Okay? What that does is it heightens your ability from what it would have been to a much, much higher level. So you can tune in better, okay? It brings in psychic attunement. It puts you on a level of higher consciousness. It also strengthens your physical body. People just don't think of that part. And it gives you a little bit more of a sense of self-assurance. So you feel a little bit more comfortable. As an example, if you're speaking in front of somebody, lecturing, or if you're going to go and get a raise, or if you're just speaking to a friend where you know ahead of time that they're not going to agree with you, it gives you a little bit more sense of self-assurance. Okay?
So it's probably good for
it heightens all
self-esteem.
those abilities. And that's just a matter of carrying it. And what I find is if you're carrying a particular stone long term, meaning for months and months and months, eventually those abilities start becoming your natural abilities, and then even if you don't have the stone, you still have the ability. But that takes a long time of carrying it. Usually you just carry a particular stone for whatever the situation is at the time.
So what if you were to get various stones for various purposes? They wouldn't cancel each other out or affect each other's ability, would they?
No, they really don't. That's why we make like medicine bags, because you may want to work on more than one situation at the same time. You might be working at job opportunities or luck, or to heighten your luck, or looking for a relationship or a friendship. There's no conflict because they're all positive.
So you mentioned luck. Is there like a gambler's stone for people that want to get lucky?
Actually, there is. You got to laugh, right? But actually,
I had to ask.
Yeah. Actually, there really is. Turquoise. See, you wouldn't think turquoise. And it's funny, when you think of a lot of the Native American jewelry, you notice it has a lot of turquoise in it. Part of that is because it's kind of like an all-purpose stone. Okay, so turquoise does healing, which means it heightens your natural healing abilities. It speeds up your natural healing abilities. That's how all healing works, basically. So it does that, and it's love, but mainly it's luck. Oh, and it's also protection. Okay, so they use that more than anything else. Most people, if they're gambling, if they're going to Vegas as an example, okay, most people will use turquoise. Really good stone. Now, all that means, by the way,
turquoise necklace, but I don't know what happened to it, and I never realized it was associated with luck.
Yeah. And, the funny part is most people think that, well, if they carry the stone for luck and they go to Vegas, they're just automatically going to win. It doesn't actually work like that. The way the stones work is it heightens your luck. So, as an example, if you never win anything, now you will win something. If you normally win, say, 4 out of 10 times, now it'll be 6. So it just heightens and increases the frequency.
And the longer you wear it, the more it heightens and increases?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm all for increasing luck anywhere.
I may have to go get me another turquoise necklace. They actually make nice, pieces to wear. They look better than a tie, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think they look really good. And what I like with turquoise is it looks good on everybody, because when you see a lot of men with, like, the tie clips or, the rings that have the stones in them, a lot of men use turquoise. So I don't know if they just like it or if they're aware, but either way, it'll still work for them.
Now, isn't turquoise also a birthstone to some signs? And I know you said you don't know a lot about astrology, but you might know about birthstones.
Well, basically, okay, it's connected really more. I connect it more with the planets, okay, which then connects. So one of the things turquoise connects to is Venus, which is basically the planet of love. Okay, which connects to, by the way, metaphysically, it also connects to Friday if somebody's doing rituals. So if they're working on love with turquoise and they do it on a Friday, it'll heighten that. Okay, but I'm actually not that sure which one that is exactly for the birthstones. However, with turquoise, because everybody can wear it, okay, you want to be aware, one of the things that you can do with turquoise, it's very good also for making friends and traveling. So if you were traveling, it makes it safer and it gives you a little bit more luck.
Okay.
All those, most stones are really multi-purpose. So if you're working with the stones, it gives you a little bit more of a jump, for lack of a better way to put that. Also, jade is a good luck stone. If you were looking for more than one stone, so you have a choice, and you can carry one or all of them. Jade also is good luck. Apache tear is good luck. Actually, with Apache tear, which is like a grayish-black stone, normally for luck you carry 3 of them together, and they can be tiny, but normally that's just the way it works. Sodalite, which is a blue stone, that also works for that.
You're naming stones I never heard of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's what learning is all about. I'm just saying I had no idea there were so many different ones.
Oh, yeah. And actually, people can actually find a lot of the stones. Either they can go to like a New Age kind of store or a metaphysical store, but a lot of the stones are also in hobby shops, and they're in a lot of the craft stores. Because people make crafts with a lot of the stones. They make jewelry and, all sorts of things, mosaics. So if you go to a craft store, they will probably have the stone.
Okay.
People just don't
think
of that.
As long as you're not going somewhere like, say, Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. It's really funny. They have a hobby store near me because, I'm in New York. They have a hobby store near me, and that has more of the gemstones than the New Age stores. So it's funny. So you just have to go somewhere where, you think they might carry it, like I said, I don't know if you have a Michael's where you are, but Michael's is a craft store. So there's a lot of different craft stores. Some of the fabric stores, depending on where you live, some of the fabric stores will have different stones because they use it for decorations on there. So it's not as limited as people think. Because, when I lecture or I speak at different places, if I'm out of state, I'm always looking to see where they have the supplies. Just out of curiosity.
What about rhinestone? What's that good for?
That's good for balance. Like inner balance. So as an example, if you're very, very stressed, it will bring the stress level down. If you're really, really tired, it will bring your energy up. It's very good for balance. Balance.
So you're not talking about balance when you're walking and you're falling down. You're talking about energy balance.
Right. We can't help you if you're falling down with people, right? We can't help them with that.
If for some of these people that have like rhinestone dresses and that are probably doing good with energy balance.
Yeah, and they don't know it. It's really funny because, like I said, you don't have to be aware. Okay, it still works. People just don't think of it like that.
Don't some musicians, like males, like Elvis Presley, wasn't some of his coats rhinestone studded?
Oh, yeah. And if you really look at a lot of the people that are musicians and singers, anything connected to music, if you look at their jewelry, you're going to notice that they wear a lot of gold and they wear stones like the turquoise. I find I was working, I was a guest a couple of times on KISS FM on the radio station. And, in between when you're on the air, you're hanging out, in a green room, talking to other people that are going to be on. And I was actually talking to a couple of the rappers. And they always wear gold. People don't realize where it originated. Remember I said there's a metaphysical law that says like attracts like.
Right.
Okay? So when you're wearing gold, or not, it doesn't have to be gold, it could be gold tone. If you're wearing gold, it's like saying to the universe, this is what I like, this is what I want more of it. So when you're wearing more gold, it actually starts picking things up for you. They consciously wear that. And basically anything that represents finance, if they're wearing gold, silver actually, because it's mined, silver, diamonds are good, but basically, even if it's gold tone, because like attracts like, so it's kind of like telling the universe, this is what I want to bring into my life.
So that would be the reason why a lot of times if you have a habit of wearing, I don't know, let's just say alligator hide shoes, you might have people come up to you from time to time and say, well, hey, I noticed that you're wearing alligator hide shoes all the time, and I kind of figure you must like them. I got a pair that that didn't fit me right, and I was wondering if you'd like to have them. This could be an example of like attracting like.
Definitely. And it's funny, too, because this is a psychic energy thing, and everybody has this. So, if everybody thinks of their friends, they're going to notice it themselves. Okay? Again, like attracts like. So if you have people, as an example, for friends, and say you're very, very positive, okay, you're going to notice that most of your friends will be also positive. They don't have to be on the same level as you, but somebody negative is going to feel very uncomfortable. They're not going to fit in your group. The same thing is, say, at a job. Most people are negative. If you're positive, you're never going to get along with them 100%. They're not going to be happy with you. You don't fit their energy. They may not know why they're not happy with you, but if you're the only positive person, or you have two people that are positive, with everybody else being negative as coworkers, they're not going to fit the other people, and they won't know why they don't fit.
But the same rule applies in reverse, that if you're outnumbered by the positive, then they won't be comfortable around the negative, in other words. Exactly.
And it's funny because if you look at your friends, everybody, if they look at their friends, they're going to notice that they have a lot of common ground. They would feel comfortable with each other. Okay. So if somebody's very positive, it's extremely unlikely that they would have a friend that's negative. Might have a negative relative. We can't control that one.
They call her Negative Nilly.
Right, Or, of course, the other way around. I had this wonderful lady that, she's one of my students. She's actually been with me since about 85. And, it's funny because she's very, very positive. She's always trying to help people. She's always trying to do things that where others come before her. She's very spiritual. She doesn't fit most of the people in her family. And she's very upset because she really wants to fit. She's never going to fit because their energies just don't mesh.
So there's a drawback to being yourself.
Pretty much. There really is. But most people aren't aware why they don't fit. So if they look at their environment, the people around them, and they look at, okay, I'm basically positive, most of my friends are going to be positive. So if you look at the people around you a lot of times, too, you can see what kind of phase you're going through.
So it helps to maybe go looking for groups of people that are like-minded?
Definitely.
Which is why people congregate in churches or covens or other places like that, because they're getting around like-minded people?
Definitely. I really agree with you, because I find whatever somebody's belief system is, to heighten that within themselves, they're going to be around like-minded people, like you said, like churches and covens or whatever their religious belief happens to be. It's like I'm a spiritual minister, which means I'm interfaith, which means I'm Christian-based, but I can marry people of different faiths. And spiritually, I tend to look at it as there's one source. I believe in God. There's one source. We don't really care what you name it, because it's the same source. So as long as it's a positive belief system, we're all going in the same direction. So if you believe in whatever it is, okay, you're going to find people that believe in the same thing so that you're comfortable. Because if you're with a group, as an example, in church, that's going to heighten your spiritual levels. It's kind of like feedback.
And you know what it's like? To go to church,
battery charger.
If you try to go to church and you're not in the same energy field with them, you're going to feel uncomfortable, and you may not even know why yourself.
Exactly. Now, I don't mean this negatively, because I'm a working minister. It's not just a title. Okay. However, I always look at it as a lot of negative people go to church more than I do. Because they're going to the building, they don't know why, but it looks good because they went. And then you have a lot of spiritual people where they may never go to the church, but they're living by spiritual law, which means they're living by whatever they feel is right. They're not going to change it because society did, you know. So they have their own belief system, and they're not going to sway from that because of society. Because society is always changing. It doesn't mean they're going to be verbal about it, but it does mean that they stick with, this is the right thing to do, so I'm trying to live right.
So these are people that are following their conscience, and they're probably on a good path.
Yeah. You know, now they may also go to church, you know, but I'm saying one doesn't mean you have to do, you know, doesn't mean you have to do both.
Well, that explains a lot, because when I first started, you know, radio hosting back at Blog Talk Radio 7 years ago, I noticed that a lot of authors were coming to me that were what I called fringe Christian. In other words, these were people that believed in God, believed in Jesus Christ, but did not necessarily agree with religion or the pastor or the Bible per se as being 100% accurate and trustworthy. Not to say they didn't trust it at all, but, you know, basically they had reservations, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I'm now that we're talking about this, I'm beginning to say that maybe I attracted those people by being one of those kind of people myself.
Well, you know what it is? I find that spiritually we all have a base. You know, and we all know this is right, this is wrong. It has nothing to do with what society says to you. And spiritual law doesn't match man-made law all the time. So if somebody's living by their belief system, it's going to be more accurate than man-made law. Okay, like this is the difference. Metaphysically speaking, you know, spiritually. Spiritually, we look at it differently. If you have, say, two tribes, okay, and one tribe, I'm actually thinking European tribe because I'm from there, but whatever tribe. Mm-hmm. If you have one tribe attacking another tribe, okay, and both tribes are killing each other, okay, because one is attacking and killing people. The other tribe is killing everybody, protecting their family and themselves, okay. So man-made law will say they are both wrong because they're both killing, okay. Spiritual law says the attacking tribe is negative. The tribe killing everybody, protecting their family, is positive because it comes from a different heart. That makes sense?
Makes a lot of sense. If you read the Bible, when Paul taught about not following the letter of the law, but rather the spirit of the law, it's a prime. I think about what you're talking about. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and so when people feel that they're in conflict with man-made law, they're usually right. You know, it's just that we can't always move on what we feel is right or what we know is right in our hearts because we're dealing with society.
Yeah, we have to function within the reality that we live in, but we can disagree with it and have our own path while we function within. Exactly.
That was a great way to put that. I like that one.
Well, I thought it was a bit of a tongue twister, but...
No, that was perfect. That was absolutely perfect.
But yeah, I think I kind of got the idea where you're coming from with that, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, I think it's far better to, you know, follow your own conscience than to get with a crowd just because the Bible says you should be with a crowd, or the government says this is the right crowd, or you know, Coben said it doesn't really matter who's saying it. What does your conscience say is the question here for me.
Exactly. And I think your first instinct like that will override everything else. Because we really, inside, we really know. Yeah. Now, I look at it as, even if we know, we can't always be verbal about it. I'm sure somebody in Salem thought it was wrong. It's not a good time to point it out.
At least not back in the 1600s, right?
I know, I wouldn't have said anything.
One of the things
really,
though,
at
that
some point you have to look at it as you don't want to be next.
After talking
a lot
to you,
of what is still underground. People don't realize that. You know, a lot of what I teach is really still underground information because we really can't explain everything to the public the same way. It's not that we don't want to. It's that, like I said, I only put positive things in my book because I truly believe that you can't do better than the positive side. you know. But, you know, I like the ancient methods because they're very direct, they're very simple, and it doesn't mean we don't get complicated. It just means that when I write, I want to make sure it's something that everybody can do for themselves. And I always tell people, if they read something in a book and it's not that clear or they can't find something, they can always call me, because in different countries, because it's international, so in different countries they may have a different stone that does the same thing, or a different herb.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So there's always a substitute.
That
it's
reminds me.
You know, like the book has how to use pendulums. And, you know, pendulums basically have been around for centuries. They actually have dowsing in pendulums. They actually have a dowsing rod on a painting on the walls in Egypt from ancient times. They were dowsing. So if you know what you're looking at, you go, oh, it's a divining rod. Other people go, I don't get it. You know, so some of the tools that we use have been around forever. So with the pendulums and dowsing, basically with the pendulums you can actually use gemstones, because a pendulum is a string or a chain that's about 3 inches, preferably, not too much longer, and you have some kind of weight at the bottom that's pointy, so that you know what direction it's swinging in when you're asking, say, a yes or no question, or we work with charts and maps. So when it gives you an answer, it needs to be a little bit pointy on the bottom so that you can see what direction it's really going in instead of, say, round. Okay. And then you want to get a gemstone that, and it's something that we can make on our own. You can buy them in the store, but a lot of these tools, you have to remember, in ancient times, they weren't going to a store, so you can make most of it. So the book tells you how to do that. So with pendulums, you just tie a string around it or a chain, you know, just so that you have that hanging. And if you're asking questions from it, the way it works is it's connecting your subconscious mind to your source to give you an answer. That's really how it works. So the more you use it, the more accurate you become, because it's like anything else, you know, what's that saying about practice?
Makes perfect.
Exactly. I couldn't think of it for a second.
Now, when you talk about pendulums, you can use them to answer questions, but you can also use them to scry with, can't you?
Oh, definitely. It's very, very positive. As an example, it'll give you answers on what vitamins are missing in your body, what you need, what you don't need. It tells you what colors or what gemstones will work for you, what herbs. It tells you how to find missing objects, missing people.
Yeah, so, about the finding missing people.
Anything with it. It's totally non-limited.
The thing about missing people, does that work the same way it works on Charmed Ones? Or Charmed, I think it's called. I don't know if you're familiar with that show or not, but they're like 3 witches.
Yeah, I saw that.
Does the scrying for people work the same way it does in that show?
Pretty much. The difference is we use maps. You know, I don't remember if they used a map on the show or not.
Yeah, they did.
But we actually use maps. And years ago, I was working with some detectives, and they out of Manhattan, because they had a situation where somebody got shot. Okay, and they kept saying, you know how it is when you go to a club? They kept saying nobody saw anything. Nobody ever sees anything. And they kept saying that there was one person connected to the shooting. And I kept telling them, no, there's 3. And they kept telling me, no, there's 1. So we actually caught the 3 people as they crossed the Kentucky borderline. And that's because of the pendulum. Now, it was great because these people actually, you know, talked to me and listened and moved on it, because sometimes they don't. And what happens is by the time they debate about what should they do, should they make a call, should they move on it, a week later it's a whole different situation.
Well, yeah, the trail's grown cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not just that, they move to different places. You know, they're not going to sit there and wait for these guys for a week to decide. You know, so it's actually funny. But I don't do that much tracking now, only because I'm very careful about it. I find if somebody says to me that they want to find somebody or something, but say they want to find somebody, what happens is I check it out for myself first, because sometimes it's better to leave it alone. Okay, I had a lady years ago where she came to me for reading, and afterwards she said she really, really wanted to find where her husband was, because he took off with their child. And it didn't feel right for me to find him. I can't put it in another way. It just didn't feel right. So when she left, I checked for myself, and everything I got said, don't find this man with the child. And logically, it doesn't make sense, right? So,
unless, of course, she
kept calling me and calling me. Yeah, she kept calling me and calling me. And after a while, she said to me, and I think she said it by accident, she slipped, and she said to me, she says, look, I know I'm an alcoholic and I do drugs, and I really don't want, there was a little girl, she says, I really don't want her, but my family says I'm the woman, so I should have the child. All I could think of was, thank God I didn't look for this guy. Just because you're female or male doesn't mean you automatically should have the child. And if I found this guy and they took the little girl back to the mother, the little girl would have been growing up much worse than with her dad, who actually cared about her.
Unless, of course, the
so
dad
we're very
himself
careful
was much
about
worse.
what we do.
Now, I show we got 9 minutes left.
It goes fast.
Yeah, it does. Do you want to let anybody know about any classes or anything else you got going on real quick?
Well, I started doing a show with a co-host on blogtalkradio.com, and I named it Hidden Mysteries, because we cover, like you said, UFOs and out-of-body experiences and basically everything. And it's going to be on the first Wednesday night of each month at 6:30 on Eastern Standard Time, and we are going to be archiving. We just started doing that a couple months ago, and people can call in, if they have any questions about whatever we're talking about at the time. Yeah. And also with classes, if people call me up, I do have classes on and off. They're constantly changing, and some classes I can teach at a distance. Some classes you actually have to be here in New York. So it depends on where everybody's located and what their interests are. And, of course, I do readings over the phone.
Okay, so some of the classes may be online and some of them may be in person.
Well, no, I don't really do too much online, because honestly it keeps blowing up on me. So it would be more over the phone and through the mail.
I didn't think of that. I'm sorry.
You know what? I didn't think of that originally either.
Well, how do you manage to do your radio show without things blowing up?
That's why I have a co-host. She's wonderful. She's a producer. Her name's Mimi Silver. And she was my producer. I had a TV show for about 3 years, and now I switched to this because I just didn't have the time to do everything. And she was my producer for a while, and then we moved locations, so I ended up producing. But she's very, very good at all the technical things, So she's doing all the technical things. All I have to do is get on the phone for the show, which is great, because really I'd blow everything up and then there wouldn't be a show. But she's very, very good.
I know when I had my show over at Blog Talk, I did everything myself. Actually, here it is 7 years later. I'm doing my show on my own site and at Revolution Radio, and I'm still doing it all by myself.
Well, that's what happened to me with my TV show. I had that on the air for 3 years, and I was actually teaching. I wasn't doing readings on the air. I was actually teaching, about angels and, everything else. Spiritual, like I said, psychic and metaphysical. And I was setting up the camera. I was scripting. I was doing the directing. I was doing the production. I was doing everything except being in the control room. They banned me from the control room.
I wonder why.
Wonderful, wonderful people. I was so happy they're in my life. But after a while, they just kept saying, just don't come in the room till we're all done.
We'll give you your special room.
Seriously, it's really funny. And I try to remember not to do that, but, I forget. Because it's normally me. It's not like it's a job. This is me, whether I did it professionally or not. It's still me. Just like, everything that you do is still you, either way.
That is true. So, during the last 5 minutes, do you have any last-minute thoughts for the folks out in Radio Land?
Well, what I do suggest to people is if they follow their very first urge, their very first instinct, okay, they're going to do much, much better in their personal lives. So if they have an urge to do something or not to do something, if they follow it, they're going to find that the more they do it, the more frequent it becomes. And your very first gut feeling or urge is 100% correct all the time.
That's what a drill instructor used to say when I was in the Marine Corps in boot camp. He repeated it, time and time again. Your first instinct's always correct. Don't second guess yourself. Just go with it.
See? And it really works.
Of course, some people's first instinct's to walk into a burning building, but... Well, it is if they want to save a life.
Right. And we need those people.
But no, I just had to do that for a laugh. I'm a smart aleck by nature. I can't help it.
Well, listen, it's great because, all the subjects that you talk about are really serious, but you make it a lot easier because you lighten it up. That makes a very big difference. Basically, I think you're a natural teacher and speaker.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope I can live up to it now. But,
no, because a lot of people, they may have the knowledge, but if you can't get it across to people, it's not helping. It doesn't mean they're not trying to help. You're very, very good at that.
Okay. Just kind of
like a natural ability with you.
Adding a laugh in when you need it and not when you don't need it or something like that.
You're really very, very good.
But
and really, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Actually, I appreciate you coming. I enjoyed this last hour we've had together. I was going to suggest that we stay in touch, and I can keep an open door for you. In fact, I can ask around. I've got 2 other ladies that's wanting to do readings already, and see if I can set the 3 of you up on different nights to have 3 different shows for 3 different readings.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Now, what kind of readings do you do? Are they tarot? Are they medium? Or
Well, if somebody has a specific type of reading that they would like, okay, if they tell me ahead of time, I will switch to something they're comfortable with. Doesn't matter what it is. If they don't have something specific, I'm more clairsentient, which means I just know, or clairvoyant, so I see things. So I usually combine those with either the cards or I do runes a lot because runes are a European way of doing readings and they tend to be a little bit more detailed. And you know how we Leos are. I find that the more details we have, the better we can make our own decisions. So my readings tend to be detailed, and what I do is I tell people everything I see first. I don't want to know anything ahead of time. And then if they have any questions, we put all of them in at the end. That way we cover ground.
Okay. Now, I was going to say on that, do you do past life regression? I had to stop and think. My brain just went...
Yes, I do.
My wife is always wanting a past life regression. Every time I have a psychic or a medium doing a reading, she wants to get a... I guess she's comparing to see if they're all the same or all different.
With what?
Well, I mean, she's been on several of my shows and always asks to get her a past life reading. I guess she's trying to see if all these readings are going to match or if they're all different or not.
Well, this is the way I look at it. I find a lot of what I do is I just send the person back so they can see it for themselves rather than me just telling them. It's a sending direct energy to kind of push you back in time so you see it yourself. That's like I also do hypnosis. I would never do hypnosis for past life because then you don't know if I'm suggesting it or if you're seeing it. Not that it's a negative field, by the way. I'm just saying me personally, I feel more comfortable if you're seeing it rather than me telling you.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because what you see in your own stuff is a lot more trustworthy than Well, did she just make that up? I mean, how do we really know?
No, exactly. And the other thing that I found from doing this for, years is the first couple of past lives that you go back to, okay, are the ones that are still in effect in some form in this lifetime. And then after that, you start going back to different lifetimes that may not relate. But the first couple seem to have something to do with what you're doing in this lifetime, so you can recognize it. I wouldn't know that if I'm trying to figure something out for you. This is more you going back on, with my help. Let me put it that way. And the thing, too, is that if you're going back, I feel the energy, so I'm with you. So as an example, if you were going back in time, I'd make sure that you're safe. I need to feel where you are and that you're okay all the time. I don't see what you're seeing. I'm just feeling that you're okay. Because I don't want you popping up somewhere where, you were having a bad experience and scare you.
Well, could you actually mentally get caught in another place and time, like in a past life, and not be able to come back mentally, kind of like become a vegetable here or something?
No, that's literally impossible. Because that's like when you go out of body, because a lot of us do that consciously. I have a spiritual brother in Albuquerque, and, we kind of pop back and forth. Actually, he was funny. He said to me, he's going on a date. Don't do that tonight. But what happens is we kind of have a cord. Think of it as like white light, like an umbilical cord that connects our spirit to our physical body. Okay? There is no way to disconnect that unless you were going to pass away anyway. There is no way to disconnect it. Some lady said to me once, I was teaching a class on how to go out of body, and I'm very hands-on, so everybody went, and she said to me before the class, she said she was worried that, the connection she had would get tangled on something and break, and then she'd die. And the thing is, when you think about energy, which was a realistic question if you don't know this, but, when you think of energy, it goes through walls, it goes through the earth, it goes through you, it goes through the universe. There's no way to break it. The most that can happen is if somebody surprises you or the phone goes off or something shocks you, you just snap back into your body. So the same thing with that. If you're going back in time, you're not disconnected. You're always connected. You can't possibly get hurt on the level of being, passing away,
Okay.
Okay. What I do, though, and I emphasize this all the time, is if somebody's learning on their own especially, I always tell people the first thing you need to do if you're learning on your own or with anybody, the first thing you need to do is to learn psychic self-defense. I don't care if they learn it from me, the library, or a friend, but you shouldn't be doing anything without that. Because what psychic self-defense does is it protects you 100% interdimensionally and on the spirit plane so you can't get hurt, and 95, 98% on the mundane physical plane, so it tones down anything negative. So on the spirit plane, if something negative is around you, you'll still know it because you have to know what you're dealing with. The difference is it can't affect you. Okay? On the mundane plane, as an example, if somebody was going to steal your car, okay, they'll steal the car in front of you or in back of you, or they'll take your hubcap, but the level will be totally different because we really can't change them. We're just protecting ourselves and what's around us. Okay. So once you're safe, okay, then you can experiment on different things because you can't get hurt. I had this very nice lady where she read a book, and he kept saying throughout the book to call in this deity that was going to be wonderful and terrific. Okay, and the deity she was calling in, it was pre-Christian, it was Egyptian, and it was the equivalent of Satan in that time. So I said to her, I said, do you have any idea what you're calling in? No, she read a book. Now, if you do that, and she thought it was something positive, she wasn't choosing negative, okay? So if she kept calling that in, eventually she would have problems in her life. She wouldn't connect it to the deity because she thought it was positive, and she'd call it in more. And then things just spiral downward. Now, if she's doing psychic self-defense, okay, it can't affect her. So to her, it would have felt like nothing happened. It would have neutralized it. So that's why I'm saying I really feel that that's extremely important. If somebody does nothing else, if they learn that, it's going to automatically improve their lives.
So that also, if you don't learn psychic self-defense and you practice this, you're setting yourself up for demon possession too, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, you can actually get hurt. I'm always saying in a class, I look at it like this. It's kind of like electricity. You don't see it, but you don't put your hand in the socket.
Actually, when I was 5 years old and I was at the John Silly Hospital, we found a metal key on the floor and went and put it in the wall outlet, and it sparked and it shocked.
Oh, God.
We were little kids. We didn't know what we were doing.
Well, really, you don't at that point. It's really, and this is kind of like the same thing. You know, it's more like somebody going, "Oh, okay, let me try doing that key."
It looked like it fit really in there pretty good,
right?
So
I like the key one.
That was a hard lesson to learn,
right?
So,
because they actually have people that have gotten hurt trying to do spiritual things, well, metaphysical things mainly. It's like even when you're meditating. When you're meditating, you're opening up to the other realms to tune in so that you can get direct information from upstairs. Okay? But you have to open up first for the information to come to you. Okay? And you don't know what's on the other side. That's like there's a big difference between pendulums and Ouija boards. Okay? I always tell people don't even touch a Ouija board. Okay? Because what happens is this. With the pendulum, you're tuning into your source. I look at it as God, but divine power, whatever somebody calls it that fits them. You have to always look at it as whatever resonates for you. Okay, it may be a different word than mine. Okay, however, what you're doing is you're getting information directly, and then through you, and then to the pendulum. Okay, a Ouija board basically is trying to contact spirits that are close to you. Now, spirits, it's 50-50. It could be a positive spirit or it could be a negative spirit. I'm not taking the chance, seriously. So people are playing with the Ouija board and they don't understand what's going on because nowadays they made it into a toy and it's not. So I'm always telling people don't play with that. Now, if you're protected, if you're doing self-defense, okay, if there was something negative in the area, it just wouldn't come, or it can't affect you. So that's why I'm always saying that that's the most important thing I find that people should learn, first. Or even if they learn that and nothing else, it'll actually help improve their lives.
I can believe that. Well, knowledge is power anyway, so anything you learn can't hurt you.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you what, my wife just got back from church, and this is my time I normally share with her. We watch these old nostalgic sitcoms like Night Court and that, and call it having mommy and daddy time. So,
well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you for coming. And like I say, I'm going to call this one here a wrap for tonight, and I'll be back in touch, and I'll be also sending you links as soon as I get this archived over the next 3 days.
Wonderful, and thank you.
All righty.
Thank you.
And folks, I want to thank y'all for listening. Y'all have a good day. Don't forget to come see me tomorrow over at www.freedomslips.com. My guest will be Thomas Fusco, and we're going to be talking about the supergeometric theory of everything, in other words. So we're going to be into quantum physics here. It's going to get pretty deep. He's been a guest a couple of times on my show now, and it's usually went pretty well. I think y'all be interested. Just go over to freedomslips.com, click on the chat button. When they get into the chat room, the player's underneath at the bottom of the chat room. I'm in Studio A, the far left player. Good night, everybody. Y'all have a good time. Bye-bye.